We know Warren Buffett is one of the greatest investors of all time, and one of his best pieces of advice was to put 90% of your money in an S&P 500 index fund. What he doesn't say is this: how long should you keep that strategy? Because as you start to withdraw from your retirement accounts, you don't really want 90% of your money in the stock market, do you? You're taking on more risk. And if the stock market falls and you have to withdraw money, to pay the bills, you might not see that money recover as you would in your 20s or 30s. So what is the thing you actually should be investing in, and what might be slightly better? I've got a few things that you want to consider adjusting and perhaps adding to the formula that Warren Buffett laid out for us. Here's the thing. Index funds are good. They invest in segments of the entire stock market. For example, the S&P 500 is the 500 largest companies in the US, essentially. People want to be super technical and say it's 497 companies, whatever. All right, you guys get the point here. But it is allocation. How are you dividing that money between those stocks and perhaps bonds or cash or gold or real estate? You can put 90% there and 10% in real estate, or you can do 50-50. How you divide that money, that is going to be the major key. Now, a 90-10% mix might be great for someone in their 20s. It might be better for someone who is in their 30s. But if you are someone in their 50s, in your 60s, or even older, it starts to get a lot riskier. Let's go back to 2020 when the stock market fell close to 30%. Remember, when you are in retirement, I feel like people who aren't in that phase sometimes forget, you are withdrawing from your retirement account. The whole point of it is to withdraw from those accounts because you invested so much that you don't have to go and work anymore. That's the whole point. And as you are withdrawing and taking money from those accounts, well, if the stock market drops close to 30% because you put 90% of your money in the market, that is going to be more severe for you. However, let's take a look and see if you had invested, let's say 60-40, 60% stocks and 20% bonds. Well, if that were the case in 2020, your dip would have been 20% instead of 30%. Now, you might be thinking, yeah, you still lost money in the market. Yes, you would have, but remember, the money is still going to compound over time, and that can save years in your retirement and have your money to last longer. 10%, if you're talking someone who has been saving and investing millions of dollars, can make a major difference. If I asked you right now, would you like an extra 10% salary increase in salary, you take it. If you want an extra 10% on your returns, you take it. If you want to lose 10% less in your retirement, you might take it. That is exactly what we are looking at here. Now, the thing is, you want to change and update your allocation over time. That is the key. Now, exactly how do you do this? There are three primary ways. Number one is you can get what is called a target date fund. These funds change with you over time. Super simple, super easy. For example, a 2055 fund is going to act as if I want to retire in 2055. These are extremely popular. The good thing is they just pretty much put your money in on autopilot, and they will allocate their money as if you're going to retire on that target date. Another way is to do what is called the rule of 120. Let's say that 120 is what I'm taking. I'm going to subtract my age. For ease of use here, I'm just going to say I'm 30. I'm not. That means that now I'm going to have 90 left over. That's 90% stocks and 10% left in bonds. So in my case, if I'm 30, 90-10 makes sense. However, as I'm getting older, I'm going to start to change that number over time, right? That is why you want to start to adjust that. So what may start out as 90-10, as I get older, 40, 50, 60, then I might get closer to 80-20, 60-40, so on and so forth. So if the market does drop, and it can, right? People did try to retire in 2007, 2008 in the Great Recession. People did try and retire in 2020 and had to continue working longer to get that money back. Those things do happen. So you want to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. That is the entire point. So you want to go back and make sure that those things are there. So those are two ways. The third one is doing what is called a risk tolerance questionnaire. This is what I do with my clients all the time. It's the most quote unquote scientific way to do it. Use a 6 to 8 question quiz. We ask you questions, or the quiz will ask you questions. I'm not going to verbally ask you these questions, but you'll take it, it'll ask you, how do you feel about X, Y, and Z? You fill it out, it'll spit out a score, and that will tell you where you are on the spectrum, if you are an aggressive investor, and where you should be and how that mix should be. You go to billybread.com/risk, it'll take you to a Vanguard questionnaire. That's the one I like to use in my courses and things of that nature. That is another way. All three of them will get you right around the same neighborhood in terms of how your money should be allocated. Now, what Warren Buffett also did not mention is he had a strong bias for the US stock market, and based on when he was born, the US stock market had been back then and still is today, or as of last year it was, the most dominant stock market on the face of the earth. We don't know how much longer that is going to continue. Now, I would prefer that to be the case just because that is where I am, but let's be realistic. Times are changing. The South Korean stock market well outpaced the US. We're changing trade policies. It's a lot going on. Now, I don't want to be prisoner of the moment and say that everything is changing and nothing will go back to what it was. However, it does make more sense now in 2026 and beyond to consider international funds, if for nothing else than the way technology works, it'll just change the global power structure. You don't just want to have S&P 500 index funds based in the United States and nothing else. Do consider international funds. What funds you want to consider, those are totally up to you, but I have done an entire list of international funds. If you want to know what those funds are and if they fit your portfolio, you want to check out these videos right here.